This is the next lesson in the American West Scheme of Learning Unit 1. And what this lesson is going to focus on, we're going to move away from the Native Americans' beliefs at this stage and look at migration and early settlement. Why did people move west? Now what you've got here, just first of all, is a map. And this is a good understanding of modern boundaries of the United States and when they became under the control of the United States. But this lesson is mainly going to focus on why people moved west. Now, just so you have an understanding, it sounds really patronising, but I don't mean it to. This is east. This is west. Okay? We need to have an understanding of why people went from here westwards. Now, just because this is west, just because this is west, doesn't mean everyone went here. West means anything this way. So we need to have an understanding of why people in America began to migrate, change their lives, and move to the west of America. And then we look at the impact that has on Native Americans later on. So this is the exam board syllabus scheme of learning. Where are we at with it? So you've got a revision aspect on social and tribal structures, way of life. We've looked at the belief of land in terms of Native Americans, and we've looked at the government policy. We're now looking at the second section, which is the factors around encouraging migration, including economic conditions, the Oregon Trail, manifest destiny, and the gold rush is going to be a separate lesson. So we're looking at a big chunk of that first bullet point there. And what we need to look at today are the real reasons. So the first thing we've got to understand is there were lots of reasons why people decided to make a very long and hazardous journey west of America. Now, I don't think I can stress this enough, but the journey pretty much was incredibly dangerous. And it would have put a lot of pressure on the people that were doing that journey. So why did people do it? Now, it can be broken up into factors, and these are economic reasons, so for money, religious reasons, opportunistic reasons to start their life again. But the way in which we break it down for this course is the push factors and the pull factors. Now, the question you might get in the exam is maybe things like explain the importance of manifest destiny to settlement to the west. Explain the importance of the Oregon Trail to settlement in the west. They would be really quite difficult questions. But it does show how I always look at the specification, this thing here, and look at how the exam board could word questions. And I look at things like the Oregon Trail, the concept of manifest destiny, and I think they could use that wording in an exam question. That's why they give us this, so that we know what to teach you. So what we've got here are loads of reasons why people moved west of America. And what we need to do is understand push and pull factor. Now, I'm not going to go through each one as I read it. What I am going to do is read through them, and I'm going to discuss them. Then I'm just going to show you whether they are push or pull. So the first one, gold was discovered in the Sierra Nevada mountains in California in 1848. It led to 200,000 people leaving the east of America in April 1849 in the hope of finding gold. Gold was a big factor in people moving. Gold could make you incredibly rich very, very quickly if you found it. So that's important. Now, gold wasn't only found in California. There were many gold rushes in this course. We look at gold that was found in Montana. We look at gold that were found in the Black Hills of Dakota. Really, it's an area where gold is rife, and it wasn't just one place where it occurred. The second one, gold prospectors needed equipment, food, drink, and entertainment, so people moved west to become shopkeepers, bartenders, and traders. Now, because of the gold rush, what we had was something known as boom towns. These towns would appear overnight, in some cases, and would supply goods for the gold prospectors. Now, remember, a prospector is a person who finds gold. Just think of Toy Story 2, Pete the Prospector. And they would have needed people to keep them entertained. So people moved, instead of people moving west to find gold, people moved west to supply resources for the gold miners. Promise of cheap land in Oregon and California attracted people who were poor and or jobless. Now this is going to link to one that we've got on here in a minute. But the east of America, I'm going to add this here. Smaller. The east of America went through economic collapse. So people had nothing to lose by moving to the west. They had no job, they were poor, but in Oregon and California, there was a promise of cheap farmland. The Oregon Trail was the only practical way to get across the mountains with wagons. The first route was publicised by Jedediah Smith in 1825, and fur trappers began to use the route, clearing scrub and finding the best spots to cross rivers. The Oregon Trail. It was a way to get to the west. Now, a lot of people think, well, why would you do that? It's very dangerous. The fact that people began to travel this route meant that it became safer as time progressed. So the fact that Jedediah Smith had seen it, had publicised it in 1825, the fact there was a route makes it a bit safer. The fact that fur trappers were cleaning scrub and finding spots to cross rivers makes it safer. So the fact that the Oregon Trail was becoming safer as time went on makes it a very attractive proposition to people who wanted to move west. In 1841, a party of 60 people made the trip using the Oregon Trail, 100 people in 1842, and in 1843, 900. It proved that large numbers of people could make the journey. In 1843, the trip was known as the Great Emigration. Again, that shows the more people that do it, the safer it is. The US government encouraged people to move to Oregon as they wanted to establish it as a US territory instead of sharing it with Britain. In 1841, the US government provided $30,000 for an expedition to map the Oregon Trail and publish reports to help migrants get to Oregon. The fact here that the government paid to map out the land is going to encourage people to move because, again, it's safer, more organised. The only way that you mess up the Oregon Trail, number one, if you're poorly planned. Number two, if you're just unlucky. Reports of how wonderful the West was reached the East. Some of the reports came from missionaries who wanted help. Others came from people who wanted to make money from new settlers. So, first of all, a missionary is someone who spreads a religious message. So they wanted people to come over and help them spread religion. But the thing is, this provided an opportunity for people to escape the sort of the awful life they had in the East. A crisis in 1837 meant that many Eastern banks collapsed and businesses failed, leading to a high unemployment, 25% in some areas. Those who still had a job faced wage cuts of 40%. This is what I was talking about earlier, the fact that the east of America was collapsing. It links to things like cheap or free farming land. The Oregon Trail reports published by John Fremont were very influential and were the guidebook that migrants used. It convinced potential migrants that moving was manageable. They had a guide, they had a book. Obviously, that's going to help anyone. Population was growing in the East due to high immigration from Europe. It led to overcrowding. Many people were very poor. So one of two things here. People wanted to escape, people wanted more money. The government set up boards of immigration, published maps and reports, and provided protection for travellers by sending units of the US Army to the West. Well, basically, what you need to understand is that there were forts to protect settlers and migrants. Why would they need protection? Probably from Native Americans who were potentially a bit concerned at the people going across their land. But the government setting up boards of immigration meant that people felt safe because they were being protected. The first migrants to travel the Oregon Trail with a covered wagon reached their destination in 1836. Their success established the Oregon Trail. Again, the Oregon Trail became the most popular method of traveling to the west. Even if you didn't find gold, you could become a farmer because in places like Oregon, the land was very fertile and could grow crops quite easily. Land in the east was expensive due to overcrowding, and many people moved west in the hope of escaping religious intolerance. What that means is sort of religious attacks. One group that we've looked at are the Mormons. So these are all reasons why people moved west. Here is the breakdown into push factor and pull factor. Now, a push factor is something that pushed people away from the east. A pull factor is something that was pulling them towards the west because it was safe, because it was nice, because there was opportunity, because there was a different way of life. And what you notice here is there is a lot more pull factors than push. Why? Because the west of America was new. It was becoming encouraged to go there to start a new life. The push factors just gave them that push to actually leave. Another reason why, and this hasn't mentioned in the last slide of information because it's so important, is the importance of manifest destiny. This was a pull factor, and it was the belief that it was God's will for white people to take possession of the whole of the USA to make it productive and civilized. What do we mean by productive and civilized? Very simple. They create an economy. Why would the government like this? Well, if the economy is boosted, the government makes more money. This is where it comes. Manifest destiny was a big problem for the Native Americans because it meant that more people were moving there to try and start their lives again. Who is going to get more of a benefit? Who's going to get looked upon more favorably? Will it be the Native Americans who live off the land and don't put anything into it potentially? Or is it going to be these migrants who are going to go, set up businesses, pay taxes, and abide by government rules? This is why the government found it very difficult to go on the side of the Native Americans, because the people that were settling and migrating across America were offering something that Native Americans couldn't offer. So when we're looking at this course, always remember the idea of manifest destiny, the idea that it was God's will for people to take possession of the whole of the USA and make it productive and civilized. And this is a very famous picture by John Gast. It was in 1872. And it's classed as America's progress. Now what we're seeing here is a civilization being created. And in 1872, obviously there was much more of a civilization throughout America that we don't have yet at this stage of the course. So you've got your farming, you've got Native Americans being chased out. This could represent God's will in the middle here. But look, you've also got a railroad here, you've got trading ports, you've got the buffalo running away. Where basically this is a good idea. This is a good picture to represent the concept of manifest destiny. Who does it suggest life is better for? White settlers by far. You know, how are the groups of settlers traveling? You know, you've got your railroad, you've got your wagons, you've got your harmony, you've got your peace. What work are they doing? Farming. How are the Native Americans reacting to the settlers? They're running away. The colour changes across the picture. You've got the light that represents this opportunity of manifest destiny, and the darkness that might represent the previous life. So this is a good understanding, and a manifest destiny is a theme that runs through this course, and as America develops, manifest destiny grows significantly. So that's the first part. If we look back on the syllabus, then we've looked at economic conditions in the East, the Oregon Trail. Might be an idea just to understand how the Oregon Trail developed and the concept of manifest destiny. The next lesson you'll have on this is more of a focus lesson on the gold rush of 1849.